What's up, guys? Today we're going to go over another case study for you. This is one of our more recent case studies from this year. This is from 2020 and in the midst of the coronavirus. So this will be a good case study. We're going to talk a little bit about bankruptcy when bankruptcy is involved. You will come across that sometimes in this business. And yeah, it's a great deal that we did. And we'll just go over it and see what we can learn. This might be a part two, well, a two-part series, so to say, just because there's a lot to learn. So this deal, this was a property that sold at a foreclosure. Family reached out to me asking if I could help them, and there was quite a bit of money left over, over $100,000, and so we moved forward, submitted the claim. There were some liens on this property, and so there was we were foreseeing probably having to go to court and maybe compete against some other claims. But what was interesting is not all the lien holders came forward, which does happen. And so I have said that even though there's a lien on a property, doesn't mean it's a dead deal necessarily. You just have to know, you do have to do your due diligence and mitigate the risks involved. And we talk about that in the course and whether or not you should move forward with a property if there's liens. But we moved forward with this property, submitted a claim. What ended up happening is after our claim was submitted, we then found out another claim was submitted. But it was a claim, but what had happened is, unfortunately, a lot of people, when they're faced with foreclosure, they are not given very good advice on what they can do. The most common advice is, well, reinstate your loan, which means bring it current. Well, if you're going through a hardship, it's very difficult to bring your loan current. But that's the advice people are given when they're facing foreclosure. Reinstate your loan, bring it current. Okay, sometimes that's not viable. Most times that's not an option. The second option then is to declare bankruptcy, which is also not very good advice because bankruptcy, while it can postpone a foreclosure, it is not a long-term solution. But unfortunately, in this case, this is the advice that the family was given. You can bring the loan current, or you can declare bankruptcy. Or a third option is pay off the loan, which is also not helpful. I mean, if you can do that, great, but usually you can't. And there are other options, but just people don't know. They don't know what other options are available. And so those are the three most common, and they're not the best. They're not the most helpful scenarios. Pay off the loan, bring it current, or declare bankruptcy. So in this scenario, what had happened is they had declared bankruptcy. And so what had happened is the trustee over the bankruptcy. So when you declare bankruptcy, there's a trustee that oversees it, determines what assets you have, how to pay back your creditors, all that good stuff. So the trustee learned of the surplus funds and he had a claim. Or basically his claim was based on the fact that the homeowners had declared bankruptcy, but the bankruptcy had been closed. And so his claim basically was he wanted to go back to the bankruptcy court and ask that the case be reopened, and so that he could get these surplus funds and disperse them to any creditors. The good thing and the lucky thing we had, though, was the husband and spouse had declared separate bankruptcies. And so this trustee was only representing the spouse. And so what ended up happening is we had $120,000 sitting in the courts, but the spouse was the only one that had declared bankruptcy. At least that was the only case this trustee was handling. And so long story short, we were able to recover half of the money for the husband. And so that's where you see this check here of $60,819.97. And so we were able to recover that. Now, what happened to the rest of that money? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in part 2 of this 2-part series.